All right, this is lesson 5.4. This is our third video. And these are the ones, if you remember 5.3, that get a little complicated, but once you've watched 5.3, you'll see us again. You'll get the handle on this in 5.4. Okay, question is fine. Sine of s plus t. So they don't give us any angles this time. It's just s plus t. And they give you a little hints over here. They tell you the cosine of s and the sine of t. So we'll start out by writing here, what's the sine of s plus t? Let's write out our formula. We know it goes sine of s, cosine of t, and it goes plus cosine of s, sine of t. As we've written it out, we realize there's 4 things we need to know, and they've only given us 2 of them. And so I might write out the second formula too while we're at it, and then we'll come back to both these. Let me give myself a little more space here. Come back to both of these once we've done our work and found out the 4 pieces of information. So let's write out our second formula, sine of s minus t. That would go sine of s, cosine of t, minus cosine of s, sine of t. Okay, so we've got our 2 formulas here. We need 4 things for these to work. So let's start with here. They gave us the cosine of s. Can't we use this to figure out the sine of s? And we can. So let's just kind of scroll down and get that one. So the cosine of s is 1/5. And also notice we're in quadrant 1. So let's come down here, give ourselves some space, and we will come back up to the problem. Don't worry. So the cosine of s equals 1/5. Remember your old faithful identity, sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. And again, if you remember this from 5.3, it hasn't changed. It's the same idea. Sine squared, what's the cosine? It's 1/5. Let's square it. We get 1/25 equals 1. We're going to solve this for sine of s. So subtract 1/25. And just like the previous video, so 1 minus 1/25. Well, 1 is like 25, not 22, like 25/25 minus 1/25 gives us that 24/25. How do I get rid of the square? I'll take the square root. So the sine of s, the square root of 24, not sure what that is. Square root of 25 is 5. I can simplify the square root of 24. It's 4 times 6. Square root of 4 is 2. So 2 root 6 all over 5. And I've got the sine of s. First quadrant, I know it's positive. Good. 1 piece of information that I'm going to need. Plus, I already had this piece of information. Let's come back up, and let's get one more thing that we needed. So we scroll back up here and say, oh, wait a minute. They gave us the sine of t. So giving us the sine of t, couldn't I find the cosine of t? And let's do it in the same manner. So sine of t is 3/5. We'll come down here. Sine of t. Now I've got the angle t. Same identity. Sine squared, except now there's a t plus a cosine squared equals 1. Same idea. Take out the sine. Put in 3/5. Don't forget to square it. We've got 9/25 plus the cosine squared equals 1. I'll subtract. You know this already. 1 minus 9/25. 1 is 25/25. 25 minus 9 is 16/25. Take the square root and look how nice this is. Square root of 16 is 4. Square root of 25 is 5. So there's my other piece of information. The cosine of t is 4/5. I've got the sine of t is 3/5. I now have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of information. That's what my formula required. So let's come back up and sub those into our formulas now. All right, here's my first formula. Sine of s. Uh-oh. What was the sine of s? Let's see, is it up here? No, it's not here. It's down here. Sine of s is 2 root 6 over 5. Keep that there, so I've got that. 2 root 6 all over 5. What was the cosine of t? We just figured that one out. That was 4/5. We've got a plus sign in here. Cosine of s is 1/5. And the sine of t is 3/5. Okay, fractions multiply the top. Got a little cramp for space. I think we can see it though. I got 8√6 plus here I've got a 3, and the whole thing is over 25. So 8√6 plus 3 all over 25. Okay, how is the second one any different? Very little different. Everything's identical in the form except for that minus sign. So you can check it and see it's going to be 8√6 minus 3 all over 25. So once you've done the work on the first part, the second part comes very, very quickly and easily. All right, if you've got that down, you're good. If not, here's one more. You can practice this on your own a little bit. I'll show you a little bit here. We're in quadrant 2. That's one difference here. But sine of s is 4/5. See if you can figure out the cosine. You use that sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. And as you figure it out, you're going to get the cosine is -3/5. Try that on your own if that's not working out. Certainly ask in class. Or here, the sine of t is 5/13. So you can figure out the cosine of t. And again, we're in the second quadrant. We know the cosine is negative. And see if it doesn't work out for you that the cosine is -12/13. So try those two on your own. And then again, it's just a matter of once you've got that information, then you come back to what's the sine of s plus t, sine of s, cosine of t, plus cosine of s, sine of t. We've got our 4 pieces of information. Sub those in. Sine of s was 4/5. Cosine of t, -12/13. Cosine of s, -3/5. And the sine of t was 5/13. All right, let's multiply. On the top, it looks like a -48 over 65. Here I've got a -15 over 65. Combine this, and it looks like a -63 all over 65. All right, and that is the sine of s plus t. How would this be any different if it was the sine of s minus t? Well, you'd still get that -48 over 65, except it'd be minus -15 over 65. And you know minus and negative is like plus. So that'd give you -33 all over 65. And that's about as tricky as you can make these problems with the formula. And that completes lesson 5.4, and that actually completes chapter 5.